Get a cup, get a cup, get a cup. Hello. Welcome back, everyone, to another video on Fresh Cut Slim. And today, we're going to be looking at the time when sharks were the least of your worries by Extinct Zoo. Now, I really like this channel. It's very interesting. I don't know if this is going to be about, like, the Megalodon. I assume it might be, because that's, like, one of the largest, creatures in the ocean. I'm sure there were some other really big ones, right? But anyway, whatever. With that being said, the original link's in the description. Make sure you go subscribe to Extinct Zoo. If you're new, subscribe. And let's begin.
You, like many others, might be hesitant to venture into the ocean, and for good reason, knowing that sharks, questionable fish, cephalopods, stinging jellyfish, and other things lurk at every level of the abyss.
Yeah, and it's also, I don't want to get any of that water in my mouth because it tastes horrible.
However, present-day waters, for the most part, are nothing compared to those that existed during the Mesozoic, especially the Jurassic period. Back then, sharks were still present and widespread, yet they weren't the top dogs, nor were they even close to it, and actually it may have been a welcomed sight when compared to the other inhabitants.
Yeah, like I know there's some big... Wow, I paused on a weird frame. What the frick's going on in this? I know there's some like big... like you had the Megalodon, right? The shark, but there were some like large water dinosaurs. I don't know the names of them, so I can't really give any names, but I know there's a whole bunch of them that are really cool. But I was thinking that the Megalodon was like bigger than any of them, but nah, I could be wrong.
As lurking in the waters, you not only had the carnivorous ichthyosaurs everywhere, but also, in my opinion, the most terrifying group of aquatic animals ever, the pliosaurs. This family of predatory marine reptiles were members of the plesiosaur order, and were distinctive due to the possession of massive heads, streamlined bodies, and short necks. During the Jurassic, they were without a doubt the undisputed kings of the waters.
What that neck do? Not much.
With many of them ending up as their environment's respective apex predator.
Oh, ad.
I love the way. Sloop! Hey, sloop! Get the sloop! Get the sloop! Get the sloop today!
Of course, like every group of animals, there were levels to this, and some pliosaurs were simply more successful and deadlier than the rest. And approximately 155 million years ago, during the late Jurassic, the world saw the emergence of one of the biggest and baddest pliosaurs to ever live, who might as well be called the Jaws of
Ew, what is this?
the Jurassic, the Pliosaurus. Now, if you watched Walking with Dinosaurs as a kid, you may be wondering at this point why I didn't say Liopleurodon instead, a 25-meter or 82-foot titan weighing in at 150 tons.
82 feet. Is that bigger than the great, like the the whale? I forget the name of it. What's the whale that's like, is it a, oh my gosh. Is this bigger than a blue whale? Because I don't know, but I feel like it has to be.
At least according to the documentary. And this size would definitely make it a contender for the title. However, this brings me no joy to say, but since the release of the documentary, it turns out that Liopleurodon was far, far smaller than
Oh, it's actually smaller than the blue whale.
originally stated, with the largest known specimen being estimated to have been 8 meters or 26 feet and weighed 7.8 tons.
Huh.
At this size, it was still a giant aquatic creature that you would not want to mess with, but it was perhaps not the supreme being that it was painted out to be. And within its own environment, it wasn't even the biggest predator around. With that title, I actually go into the Pliosaurus, who thus ultimately makes for a much better candidate of being the true Jaws of those times.
These things are big, right? But I said this in another video, that you don't really have to worry about them because they're not, unless you're out in the ocean, like out in the ocean fishing or something, like you're probably not going to come into contact with them because of how big these creatures are. They can't be in shallow water. Like you don't see blue whales in shallow water, right? So it's probably the same kind of logic, is that they don't go into shallow water that often. So if you and them were around together and then you were swimming like in the relatively shallow area, you'd probably be fine.
And funnily enough, despite having less fame, the Pliosaurus was actually described decades earlier than the Liopleurodon, when Richard Owen, who also happened to be the first person to coin the term dinosaur, named the Pliosaurus in 1842, after finding a partial skull, lower jaw, and several limbs. Owen was correctly able to tell that,
Look at those eyes, boy. He's seen some things.
despite its strange body proportions, this new creature was both giant and a type of plesiosaur. But where he was wrong was that he mistook it for being closely related to crocodiles, due to its somewhat croc-like body and skull, thus leading to its name, which means more lizard. However, years after, with more research,
that's
paleontologists would find that the pliosaur's closest living relatives were not crocodiles, or any crocodilian for that matter, but really turtles of all things. See the resemblance? The additional research carried out
No.
also led scientists to create an entirely new family within the Plesiosauria, specifically for Pliosaurus, and those more like it than the other long-necked species. They dubbed this new family Pliosauridae, and since its creation, around 31 species have joined its rank, who together span an existence stretching 139 million years from the late Triassic to late Cretaceous, and a range that encompassed water on every continent except for Antarctica, Asia, and Africa. Among the group, there was quite a high level of diversity, despite them all sharing certain general characteristics.
Now, why wouldn't they be in certain waters like Antarctica? Back then, was it also as like cold as it is now, or would it be a lot warmer?
And ultimately, different subgroups were formed, with Pliosaurus again getting its own group, composed of those more closely related to it than the Marmornectes, a fellow pliosaur. And the group was ultimately lovingly named the Lassophonia, meaning the sea murderers. This gives you a small idea of just
And the lassophobia is the fear of, I think, deep bodies of water or something like that. There's a subreddit for it that I follow.
what kind of animal Pliosaurus was, and should make you wonder why exactly that name. Well, it was a reflection of their exceptionally giant skulls.
Wow, look at that.
That could account for 25% of their entire body length. And while not as much of a strict definer, those placed in this group were also some of the largest pliosaurs and marine predators to have ever lived. And actually, some paleontologists think that certain specimens of Pliosaurus may represent the biggest of its kind overall.
Look at this one up here. This looks like a looks like a penguin who got like stretched. It's like a penguin got run over by like a dump truck or something. Look at this weird stretch going on here.
But not every individual is made equal when it came to length or mass. For over the years,
You can say that again.
multiple different species have been unearthed and named. And even now, there are still some undergoing approval, with the total number of species possibly reaching up to 12 depending on who you ask. Each one differs a bit in their
Don't ask me, I don't know.
own way, with size being the biggest difference. Though, all retain 7 distinctive characteristics only seen in this genus, which include a certain number of teeth, specific vertebrae proportions, and most importantly, teeth that are triangular at the cross-section. Of all the
10-inch long teeth? That's crazy. Dang.
kinds identified, the most famous and iconic are arguably the type species, Pliosaurus brachydaeus and Pliosaurus funke, who is more commonly known
Funky.
as Predator X. And as
Predator DJ.
far as many paleontologists are concerned, it was the king of its genus when it came to size and ferocity, with a length between 10 and 12 meters, or 33 and 39 feet, while its weight could have been more than 12 tons, making it larger than 2
Okay, wait. What's going on here? Look at this weird back of this tail. What is that?
normal-sized orcas
That looks
combined
weird.
together. And while not confirmed, there is some very strong evidence that it got even bigger. As in 2023, scientists revealed a giant vertebrae had been unearthed in the Kimmeridge Clay Formation of England that dwarfed anything found previously. And based on other pliosaurs, it's thought that the bones belonged to a specimen that measured as long as 14.4 meters or 47 feet, which is seriously massive when considering the fact that pliosaurs have shorter necks and not particularly long tails. But because only vertebrae were found, it's not crystal clear in what genus the specimen belonged to. But the researchers heavily favored the idea that it was a pliosaurus, with funke being the likeliest species. It's possible that an adult this size would weigh well over 15 tons, which would render it the biggest fish, so to speak, in its environment, and very likely the entire world during its existence.
But they got some crazy teeth, don't they? I gotta use this as a thumbnail as well. This is nuts.
However, to be the jaws of the Jurassic, you can't just rely on size. You need the, well, jaws as well. And in this department, Pliosaurus came more than prepared, with individuals regularly yielding skulls longer than the average NBA player is tall.
So are these all smaller than like a blue whale? Or are they getting bigger? Because like from that one picture that was shown earlier, they're still not really Like they're like half the size of a blue whale, or they're not really that close. Like, are blue whales still the biggest and always been the biggest? I think I heard that they are. I remember seeing some post on like Reddit. So it's right that someone was saying that we should be really grateful that we are living with the biggest creature to ever have lived. And I don't know if that's true or not, but if that is true, I mean, that's definitely something to think about.
And inside these titanic jaws, dozens of large, highly serrated teeth were situated tightly next to one another, that also retained very pronounced cutting edges, which allowed this predator to take gargantuan chunks out of prey with ease, causing forcible amputations and major blood loss, leading to shock and death. And it wasn't just the sheer sharpness of the teeth that made each bite extremely lethal, as Pliosaurus's teeth also had highly unique angles that led to each one overlapping with the others.
Dang, my boy needs some braces.
As the jaws came down, causing them to create a chopping or giant scissor-like cutting effect that just added more problems for any victim. The design of the teeth alone most likely meant that even swimming into them at a snail's pace would cut you up. But just for pure overkill's sake, the Pliosaurus developed an extremely powerful bite force as well, thanks to its deep and robust jaw bones that would have housed large muscles and its sturdy, powerful neck. Back in the day, it was said that Predator X could have bitten down with a force of 33,000 pounds per square inch, equivalent to 16 tons, which is 6 times greater than the compressive strength seen in most concretes. Although, this number was only...
Do you hear them running upstairs? Like, oh... I try to film during the week now. Like, I'm filming on the weekend right now, specifically because of that. It just doesn't end.
Quiet! Keep it down up there!
So I've tried to film during the week, but not today. that was a bad decision.
Only provided informally based on its original size estimates, which turned out to be a little gratuitous. So, its bite may not have really been this powerful.
Ew, look at his eyes.
That being said, another smaller species, the Pliosaurus cavani, did undergo a more detailed study, which found that upon maximal exertion, its back teeth could have generated forces up to 49,000 newtons, 3 times more powerful than the bite of a saltwater crocodile. And depending on which...
At some point, it doesn't matter how much they can bite, because it's just like, if you are bitten, it's gone. If it bites your hand, whether it's at 40,000 kilomajigs or 150,000 kilomajigs, whatever he said, it's still gone. It doesn't matter how strong his bite is. Your hand's still gone.
Study you look at could also arguably be stronger than the bite of the king himself, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, who, mind you, could literally tear through a car with a single bite. And given that the species wasn't as large as the Funke, it's assumed that at the very least, Predator X could match its power and most likely exceed it. Meaning, if something got caught by its jaws, it wasn't getting out alive or in one piece. And this something is believed to have been virtually every animal that lived alongside it, seeing that the Pliosaurus' size and bite force alone meant that nothing was too big or too well defended to be off the menu. But, of all the animals, cephalopods, large fish, and marine reptiles are thought to have been the most important part of the Pliosaurus' diet, a hypothesis backed by the stomach contents seen in other pliosaurs, which showed the presence of large squid, fish, and reptilian teeth. And not to mention, others of its own kind may have gotten the axe from time to time as well, as fossil...
I mean, how can anyone be surprised by that? It's literally in the water with them. I mean, that makes sense.
Records show that Pliosauruses were extremely abundant within their environment, so fights over resources, territory, and mates were probably quite frequent. And interestingly, several stones were discovered in pliosaur stomachs as well, suggesting that they routinely consumed them in order to help grind up food.
I know I think birds do that, don't they? Or there's some creatures that do that, where they'll eat stones to help with digestion. I think it's a bird that does that.
Its nightmarish appearance, bone-pulverizing bite, and large size, every animal that knew what was good for it probably did their best to avoid this creature. But this was definitely easier said than done, considering that Pliosaurus had a build specifically designed for catching prey, having been equipped with 4 large and powerful flippers that could each be 3 meters or 10 feet long, helping to generate immense thrust.
10 feet for one, flipper? That's crazy. How long was the actual body, then? To be proportionate, it would have to be huge.
While flapping up and down. And when all 4 flippers were working together, the Pliosaurus achieved remarkable speeds that was mainly used for ambushes, as it required large amounts of energy and wasn't the most sustainable way of swimming, with studies finding that on the regular, only the front flippers were used when cruising. Along with immense speed, Another area that Pliosaurus seemed to be exceptional in was diving. Again, like in the case of the diet, this thought originates from what's seen in other pliosaurs, as numerous specimens are known to bear damage to their bodies that is in line with decompression sickness, such as necrosis to the skull, suggesting that they often travel to deep depths.
How deep? Like, they're so huge. Could they withstand, like, I don't know if I'd think that they could withstand, like, a submarine level of compression, but they gotta be getting close to that, I would assume.
Perhaps in order to pursue prey or stage attacks from below. Yet, while deep diving was likely a big part of its life, specimens for the most part are found in areas more associated with shallow, warm waters. As in the Kimmeridge Clay Formation, for example, it appears that Pliosaurus lived at depths no deeper than 200 meters or 650 feet, which is quite similar to the usual max living depths seen in modern great whites. And this is an interesting coincidence, seeing that the two also...
You see, 650 feet, that's their depth that they would swim at. So, you know, if you're around then, you could go swimming in like a 20-foot deep, you know, in 20-foot deep of water and you'd probably be fine.
also share another similarity: brains. Specifically, skull scans of the Pliosaurus show that proportionally speaking, the brain of Pliosaurus was equal in size to that of a great white, and was of a similar type too, leading to
That looks
paleontologists sometimes using the great white as a basis for how smart this sea murderer would have been. And while some may assume that great whites are not the most intelligent animals around, they are definitely not dumb, and are known to time their strikes on prey down to the exact second, be highly curious and inquisitive, and can even display certain levels of coordination.
Most animals can be relatively smart. Like birds can be really smart. Yeah, I would say fish probably not that smart. However, octopus and dolphins have been shown to be really smart. But, you know, I know that they can recognize you. And I know that, so that there's definitely some ability for intelligence. I know that you can teach them to perform tricks and stuff. And dogs, cats, monkeys, most animals have some kind of intelligence. So like, I can't go around assuming that every animal's stupid or not intelligent, but I would say out of all of them, jellyfish. I don't think there's any intelligence in them, right? It's just like they just do that. And that's it.
All things that paleontologists now think that Pliosaurus was capable of too. Additionally, based on the brain shape and the structure of their skulls, it's thought that Pliosaurus had keen senses as well, with eyesight.
Is this a picture of them crapping? Why would someone draw this? We made this wonderful picture of this plesiosaur, but it's missing something. Turd!
Sight and smell likely being the most refined, which allowed it to track prey through areas of poor visibility, smell carcasses miles or kilometers away, and see up to 10 times better than humans can underwater. With such an
Humans can't really see underwater because friggin' water gets in their eyes. And then it doesn't get in theirs.
arsenal of tools combined with its offensive capabilities, there was truly nothing around that came even close to the dominance of the Pliosaurus. And even if a competitor was close to its size, it didn't matter much, as Pliosaurus was surprisingly durable on top of being lethal. Because while it did not boast any obvious external armor, its skeleton was sneakily compact and robust, with its trunk in particular being quite sturdy, allowing it to tank and shake off an impressive amount of damage. There's also the indirect evidence that Pliosaurus possessed remarkable bone healing capabilities as well, which would further help it to survive and persist.
Oh, this picture does not make them look smart. My goodness. Look at those eyes. If this guy was alive today, he'd be at a tank in one of those, like, amusement parks.
In a world already overran by marine predators. And speaking of surviving, one aspect of the Pliosaurus that might invoke some envy was its longevity. Naturally, no one knows for sure just how long these creatures lived, but some estimates paint a lifespan of up to 100 years.
That's believable. Like, sharks can live. Like the Greenland shark, I think that's like the oldest shark alive or something. That like they can go to like 500 years or something. I know there's one. I think it's the Greenland shark that was alive. You know, back in like times when people were like sailing around in like wooden ships and like I think before the before America was founded, like just some crazy crap, and it's still alive today.
Such a long lifespan granted extended domineering rules for individuals, and along with all the other traits, led them to being absolute units in nearly every way.
Look at the size of
Throughout
this
their
lad.
existence, Pliosaurus was able to achieve quite a wide and diverse distribution, with fossils being known from throughout Europe and South America, which also indicate that it lived in both the now extinct Tethys Sea and the still existing Pacific Ocean. Within these areas, it showed a heavy preference for tropical shallow waters near land masses, where life, and therefore food, would have been absolutely abundant. And this is reflected
Wait, so maybe it wouldn't be, if you were alive, then it wouldn't be a good idea to go swimming.
by the large amount of marine and terrestrial animals found within and around its habitat, which included ray-finned fish, lobed fish, cartilaginous fish, various
Ew.
turtles, ornithischians, pterosaurs, sauropods, small and medium-sized ichthyosaurs, mollusks, cephalopods, and arthropods. And as you probably noticed, the animals found on land included a few different dinosaurs, and while direct evidence of interaction is not known, some speculate that those who ventured too close to the water or traveled between islands may have suffered the Pliosaurus's wrath if extremely unfortunate. And along with dinosaurs and the other mentioned animals, there was also a bunch of marine predators lurking around too, that were within their own right as scary as could be.
Oh, that is cool. This reminds me of like that salamander. There's some salamanders that are they're in caves, but they're like completely white, and they kind of look like this. I forget the name of them.
This included a mix of other plesiosaurs, such as the Liopleurodon itself, Pachycostosaurus, and Peloneustes, an abundance of Thalattosaucians, who were literally marine crocs that were both extremely diverse and giant.
A marine croc. What does that mean? Like, aren't crocs already marine?
Being able to grow up to 7 meters, or 23 feet.
Whoa.
And then, of course, there were multiple sharks as well. Of all these predators, the ones that gave Pliosaurus the best run for its money were other pliosaurs. However, not even them could reach its sizes, making fully grown Pliosauruses the true kings of the waters back then, and the most worthy of the title, Jaws of the Jurassic. And Pliosaurus held this title for 8 million years.
What the frig is this picture of? All the other pictures make them look cool, and then you show me this, which makes them look not so cool. Looks so dopey.
Existing from 155 to 147 million years ago, during the late Jurassic. Yet, no matter how strong or powerful a ruler may be, his reign must
That's gotta
eventually
be
come
AI,
to an
that's
end.
cool.
And by the time the Jurassic gave way to the Cretaceous, the Pliosaurus was no more. Despite it being a prominent and important pliosaur, we really don't have any good idea on why it disappeared. Though, its vanishing does seem to correlate with a sudden decrease in pliosaur diversification overall,
What does that mean? They're inbreeding?
indicating that the trouble was not just limited to it.
Oh, that's a sick picture.
For now, the only ideas that really exist in the matter is that there was a potential decrease in prey, or that some climatic change brought too much stress upon them, and thus leading to a gradual decline. For a
Yeah, it's weird for being such like super predators. You'd think that them just like disappearing like that is kind of wild. I mean, maybe like the Earth goes through like climate cycles, right? So maybe like the water heated up or something, and then it just killed them. I don't know. Speculation.
while, certain paleontologists believed that they had been outcompeted by other predators. Yet, there isn't really a great candidate for this hypothesis. However, there is one thing that's certain. There were probably many animals back then that would have been absolutely ecstatic that the Pliosaurus was no more. Unfortunately for them,
Yeah, more food for the rest of you.
though, nature had another group of super predators up its sleeve, so to speak, ready to unleash upon the world not so long after. The Mosasaurus. And that about wraps up this episode.
Well, I think this was pretty cool. I think it was pretty freaking cool. I guess my speculation of that, if you were around back then, you could go swimming, if it's like within 20 feet of water, the depths of 20 feet, because then you'd be fine. But it sounds like they would actually stick around land masses because to get things that are swimming or whatever. So maybe that was a bad idea I had. But yeah, make sure you go subscribe to Extinct Zoo if you like this. If you're new, subscribe. And yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.